Hi everyone, welcome to Market Intel, the show that brings you what's actually happening in the front row with people working with businesses. Today I'm joined by Adam Heazlewood from Bayleys Canterbury. So Adam is one of the top real estate agents in Christchurch, and if you look at his website on Bayleys, I think he's got every single award I can possibly see for Bayleys Canterbury. And in the last 3 years, he's grown it from himself to a team of 6 people now working for him. So thanks for coming on board, Adam. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me.
That's all good. And you enjoying lockdown? I can see you're working from home again, are you?
Yeah, absolutely. The lockdown process has been easier than I would have thought to adapt to, but it's worked out quite well. Just had to make sure that I had a more than suitable home office, so it's been good.
Oh, nice. And I thought we were just talking about it before, obviously off camera, about and now that we're at level 3, you're allowed to start doing viewings again, but you've got to get the rubber gloves out and the disinfectant, and have you got to wipe down the houses afterwards with bleach? Like, what's the sort of government restrictions?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, we're limited to 2 viewings per listing per day. We've got to have a reasonable gap in between. As the agent, we're required to wear gloves. We have to offer hand sanitizer to the buyers. There can only be 2 people viewing the property as well, and like per group. And yes, we've disinfectant wipes for surfaces, door handles and cupboard doors and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's a bit of a different world, but at the same time, I'm just grateful that under this alert level, we can continue business as usual.
I think I was following your Facebook and stuff, and I think a couple of transactions actually went through on level 4, which was probably, I'd imagine, quite challenging, given that no one was allowed to move out or anything.
I was confident that we could get a few deals done during level 4, just because we'd already shown a lot of buyers' homes prior to the lockdown. And if you'd said to me prior, how many deals do you think you could do? I would have guessed, I've said this a number of times, maybe 4 deals. And my own team ended up doing 9 during the lockdown. So I was actually really impressed at the level of confidence, I suppose, that was shown in the marketplace.
You've got probably your finger on the pulse on a localized level here in Christchurch. Like, what's your sort of gut feeling on what the kind of impact's going to be that you've seen in the last couple of weeks in the conversations you've had? What
I'm thinking is, across the nation, I think that Christchurch is probably going to be, I'd like to think, one of the least affected regions, mainly for a couple of reasons. Like, firstly, housing's already been considered very affordable in Christchurch for quite some time. And people have been saying, like, surely our time for growth is about to come. And we were starting to really see that for about the last 6 to 8 months, and then this has come along. So we've only really had a small window of opportunity for growth to occur, but our average sale prices, as most people know, compared to other main regions, is very low. Also, many people forget the fact that after the earthquakes, Christchurch didn't have any real tourism to deal with, So you could say that we've got by for the last almost 10 years with quite minimal tourism. And that's probably going to help us quite a bit. And what also underpins Christchurch and wider Canterbury is we are very rural focused. We do have a very big rural backing, and we're seeing from our own sales team that end of the market's going to prove to be quite strong, but rural's probably going to have, the agriculture sector's probably going to have like the best time they've had in a long time moving forward, which is great to see. So I think there's like some key fundamentals there that are going to see Christchurch in a better than expected position.
I wonder what's your thoughts on the sort of suburb versus CBD? So like what we sort of saw after the Christchurch earthquake was that we definitely saw the suburbs thrive. Like the growth in Rolleston was massive, and like the house price and Lincoln and West Melton and even Rangiora had a bit of a boost as well. Like with this, everyone going to obviously having to work from home for the last 5 weeks and getting more used to these sort of virtual calls, and now that we're sort of allowed back out and sort of spending money back in our local communities, do you potentially see another sort of surge in sort of suburb prices, and not so prices, but sort of demand in the suburbs, that people have gone out of the city again back towards the suburbs? Because we kind of had it, people were starting to move back into Christchurch CBD, but do you think this is going to be a bit of a retractor for them again? It's
a real hard thing to gauge, I suppose, this early in the process. But what I have been saying is, people have spent 5 weeks straight in their home, so they'll clearly know what's wrong with it. Like, they will have worked out, shoot, we actually need a bigger yard or less of a yard because it's so much maintenance, or we want to be within walking distance to local parks and all this sort of carry on. So I can imagine a lot of owners have identified what they do want. It's a real hard one to gauge, I suppose, the difference between an earthquake and this pandemic as to whether that will make people want to shift outwards. If anything, I can imagine people may want to be within walking distance to amenities more so, and have realised that, hey, if we're working from home, we don't need to worry about a commute. I can walk to get my coffee in the morning and all that sort of stuff. But I think we're going to have a better indication as to where the demand truly is going to be in the next 4 to 5 weeks, I would say.
We're sort of probably, am I right in saying we're probably heading towards more of a buyer's market than a seller's market at the moment? Would you sort of say that's a bit right, or?
It would be a fair assumption to think that it would end up being more of a buyer's market. The only thing that may play to sellers' hand that's been quite apparent over the last wee while is suppliers remain very low. So if there's a lack of supply, that's going to make it harder for buyers and be in more so the vendor's favour, given that if buyers have a lack of choice and they see something they really want, they're going to need to pay what's required to own it. I think that will be a case-by-case basis, in the way that if you're in an area, let's say for example, a subdivision where there's quite a bit of like-for-like housing, where there's not a lot of variation between them, well, that is going to end up playing more so into a buyer's favour, because of course they can play the field and work out what they want, and if you like, sort of get them to negotiate against each other. Whereas when you got more bespoke and individual style listings, that I think those people will probably be okay. But like anything, it just comes down to circumstances. Like, the only real option I think there'll be for buyers is when you've got a vendor that really does need to sell, whether it be to do with their current circumstances with employment, or their business not performing as well as they like, or something like that. It's the age-old thing, like when the market's a bit tougher, you just want to be able to hold on until you can obviously achieve what you want. It's when you're forced to sell, typically the price doesn't end up reflecting your desired outcome.
So just to finish off, we always ask our sort of guests, like, what's the one piece of advice for business owners? And what a lot of people don't think about and realise is that, you know, you are very much your own business owner, and you've got a team of 6 staff essentially. So you've obviously been affected by COVID-19, and obviously looking at your own business and how you sort of keep growing, or how you sort of you get through this next sort of 12 months. So what's the sort of thoughts and actions that you're sort of putting into place yourself, and what would be your advice to someone in a similar position?
Like anything, just like the time of the earthquakes, the main thing that people need to do is adapt as quickly as possible to the current environment. Too many people, I think, sit and worry or hope that things will resume back to normal quicker than we expected, but no one would have thought we would end up being in lockdown for 5 weeks when this all came out. So you need to adapt as quickly as possible, and make sure your business is fit to run in such an environment. Like, people getting their home offices set up, these Zoom meetings are fantastic. And I suppose I can see moving forward, the days of flying to Wellington or Auckland just for meetings is probably going to come to an end after this, because people are going to see the benefits of being able to work from home and do what we're doing right now. And the benefits, as far as I'm concerned, are so much greater. So I suppose adapting is the main thing. The last 5 weeks of lockdown, like, it's been the ultimate opportunity for people who are running their own business, or if you're self-employed or whatever it may be, to reevaluate what's truly important and where there's been a lot of waste in terms of outgoings, etc. So I suppose if you just like really scale back your business and look at, you know, what's a necessity, what you don't really need but is an outgoing cost, you know, work out what's working for you, I suppose, is the main thing. And there's no denying we're probably going to times where people need to think twice about where they're going to be, you know, spending their money, whether it be on marketing their business or on, you know, whatever it may be. It's crucial moving forward, because we don't know if we're going to be in, you know, somewhat of a recession for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, whatever it may be. It's an absolute unknown. We're in uncharted waters right now, obviously.
Thanks very much for your time. So there you go, everyone. Adam Heazlewood, expert in the Christchurch property market, and soon to be an expert in which disinfectants to use on buyer's house once you've had a viewer, because I can only imagine.
Potentially already am, mate.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you go along with a wee bucket and gloves and all that kind of stuff?
Pretty much.
Cheers, mate. You take care.
Same to you.